first.
Yes. It is now 7 o'clock. Scituate Planning Board, Thursday, August 22nd, 2019. I'd like a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, our first item, 7 o'clock, is a discussion zoning Hammerock Residential Overlay District. Mr. Brodsky, you're on.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
And I'm sorry I'm back with this, because you're likely bored with it, but in any event, I represent South River Marina LLC. Ken Duval and Scott Herzog are the managers, and they own 21 Central Avenue, which is the former South River Yacht Yard. The property, as you may remember, is within the business district, and a portion is within the Hammerock Village Residential Overlay District. You may remember that we had proposed as a citizen petition an article at last town meeting to put the entire parcel into the overlay district. We went through the entire public hearing process. You saw us at least once. I had occasion to speak with the Zoning Board of Appeals, Advisory, the Board of Selectmen, and we thought we had everyone's support for the article. I presented at town meeting and was surprised to learn after Advisory had gotten up to say that they also supported the article that the selectmen had changed their mind. One of the selectmen got up and raised concerns regarding the article. So just to be prudent, because again, I don't think there's any opposition to this, I requested that that the article be referred to the planning board for study so that we could present this in a different format. So I'm here this evening to ask if the planning board will actually propose this article as its own for fall town meeting. I recognize that the town does not like to do zoning in the fall. However, this is a very discrete issue. We've already presented this. We have volunteered to do all of the labor associated with it. The warrant is already open and closes on September 3rd. I have provided a copy of the proposed article as well as the proposed zoning map to the town planner. I can go into more detail regarding the property if you'd like, but you may remember just briefly the history that in 2007, 2008, the town undertook to rezone portions of Hammerock to promote economic development. It was determined that the business district in Hammerock had been underutilized, and it was decided at that point to promote development by encouraging multifamily use in the district. Town hired zoning consultants who drew up the map. The map actually included the entirety of the property. During the workshopping of the article, I believe it was the former operator of the property raised some concerns regarding the property being within the district, and ultimately it was pulled out of the district. And it's odd because we have actually some portions of the property are within the district and other portions are not. I can explain if you'd like to know more detail. In any event, we'd like to put the entire parcel back into the overlay district, consistent with what was originally envisioned under the bylaw change. The boatyard use is really no longer a viable economic use down there. There's no demand for that large, ugly metal building, the intention is to keep the marina, which is a valuable asset. The intention is to keep some of the boatyard operations, but the property is grossly underutilized with that large metal building. So in order to explore future uses of the property, we really need the flexibility granted by putting the property back in the overlay district. So we were asked actually as part of this process to conduct a neighborhood meeting, and we have actually scheduled and advertised a neighborhood meeting on a proposed article for a week from tonight. That will be, August 29th at 7 p.m. at 21 Central. We posted an advertisement for this in the Ledger. We didn't make the Mariner deadline. We had found out about this request at the end of last week. We're posting it on all the local Scituate Facebook and social media pages and doing our best to get the word out. Again, when we had originally presented this article, Ken and Scott literally walked around the neighborhood explaining what they were doing, getting signatures for the citizens petition. and we haven't come across anyone who has raised a concern, but we're prepared, and we will conduct a neighborhood meeting. We will ask people to sign a sign-in sheet, and we're happy to report back to the board and do whatever the board would like to feel more comfortable about, it advancing this article in the fall. The town planner had at one point, so asked us what we wanted to do with the property, and we really don't have any development plans. I can give you some ideas if that's of interest to the board. We have some concepts, but we haven't reviewed those concepts for conformance with zoning or for compliance with wetlands, because we really don't know what we're dealing with. But I certainly can speak to that issue if the board would like to hear it.
Before we do that, Karen?
Same thing. Same thing, so the board has to decide if it's willing to sponsor the article. If the board is not, then they want to do it on this fall, they would have to do a citizen petition.
Okay. All right, how does the board feel? Do we want to sponsor this, or do we want him to go out and get 100 signatures? What do we want to do?
Who created the issue?
Not the applicant. Excuse, no, it wasn't us.
We did it. When we came with the overlay.
Okay,
We had the overlay was this big. We came back up, and when it came to expediency, we either losing the whole thing or not. We cut it back. So then we had part of it. Now I got a piece of property out there that's basically got two type zonings for it. And I think we owe it to come back up and straighten it out.
all right.
I agree.
Okay, so we'll sponsor the article.
Thank you very much. And I'll coordinate with Karen as to what we need to do to accomplish that. And
Do we need to do a motion?
Why don't we formally vote?
Why don't you, make a motion?
All right, would someone endorse the motion to put the Hammerock Residential Overlay District on the upcoming town meeting?
So moved. Second.
I don't know if that solves the problem. I think what we need is a motion and a recommendation to put it on the town meeting in September.
We'll
It
do,
closes in September.
I think you need to put that the planning board sponsor the article for the Hammerock Residential Overlay District for the fall town meeting. Then, we already actually put in a placeholder just for an article. And we just, today we put in a placeholder and said, we don't know who's sponsoring it yet, but we can change that next week. And then we'll get the final wording by September 3rd. The projected date we'd have to get the stuff for the legal ad to the paper by like September 6th for a hearing at the end of September. So it's a fall town meeting's a quick moving process.
Yeah.
So,
The heavy lifting belongs to you, Adam.
yes, again, you already have the language that we
I'm looking at it.
Yes. We have the map,
We-
and so I think it's ready to
It's ready to go.
I'll coordinate with respect to the cost for the legal advertisement, and I will make the rounds as we need to.
All right, there's a motion and a second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we have a noticed public hearing for 7:15, and so I'll give the applicant the opportunity to set up and to come up forward and so on.
What's that? It's like 2 minutes.
Should we wait for Steve?
We can't open this until 7:15, so we can wait. Right, okay.
We're gonna do those.
So, while we're waiting, we'll do some housework. So I move to approve the meeting minutes for August 8th, 2019.
Is there a second?
Those are the ones that are emailed.
Yes. Sharon, these are the ones that were emailed? Yes.
Okay, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So I move to approve the requisition of $5,303.23 to Harriman Associates for professional services for the comprehensive master plan, for $879.80 to Chester Consulting Services LLC for the peer review services for 50 Country Way, for $509 to Chester Consulting Services LLC for peer review services for the Glen, for $2,025 to Merrill Corporation for peer review services for 247 Driftway.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 2 minutes.
That didn't take long now, did it? Okay. Has everyone signed the sign-in sheet out front?
In case there's any questions.
No?
Would you please?
Would you please? Or, sir, would you bring it in and we'll pass it around? Thank you. Is that the Chief Elliott? Is that the one?
What's that?
Chief Elliott, I have mine at the shop.
On which one?
The one from Elliott about the common drivers.
Yeah.
I thought I was secretary. I mean, that's why you're here, dear.
Yes, we have that. Yes, I do.
Rebecca, what time does your watch say?
7:12.
My watch is fast.
Who's facts? You're getting antsy too.
Hmm?
I don't have my bylaws with me. Are those them right there? What's in front of you in the book?
What?
No, in the book. I have it in my book with me because I didn't get a chance. Picture of it.
Too many appliances. Too many appliances.
Does your clock say?
I make a motion, the clock's 2 minutes slow.
Yeah. All right, we're going to begin. As close? That's fine.
It's close enough for you.
All right, we are here for a special permit, public hearing for a common driveway, 443 to 461 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. You're on.
Great. Thank you. For the record, my name's Gregory Morse. I'm a registered engineer with Morse Engineering. With me is Jeff Hassett from Morse Engineering. We're representing the applicant tonight, David McCready, who's with us in the audience. As was just read, this is a public hearing associated with the special permits to allow the construction of 3 common driveways located between 433 and 461 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. The plans that we submitted, and we're going to refer you to the A&R plan. This property is about 15 acres in size in total. It consists. Sure.
All right, Greg, can you hold on for 1 second?
Yep.
Thank you. Trains run late.
the common driveway.
Would you just, I know it's redundant, but would you start over again, please? Thank you.
I apologize for being late.
Again, for the record, my name is Greg Morse. I'm a registered engineer with Morse Engineering. Representing the applicant here, Dave McCready. Dave is with us in the audience. This is a special permit request to allow for the construction of 3 common driveways at property located at 433 to 461 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. The property itself, Chief Justice Cushing Highway, is along the bottom of the page here. The property line, shown in bold, encompasses about 15.7 acres. It's located within the R1 zoning district. It's located within the Water Resource Protection Overlay District, and a portion of the property down the southern end down here is also located within the Floodplain and Water Source Protection Overlay District. Portion of the site, again down at this southerly end, is considered wetland resource area. That wetland resource area is bordering the Tack Factory Pond, which is just south off of the site. The lots that are depicted here, these are lots that are existing lots. This was a Form A, or an approval not required plan of land that was endorsed by the planning board in June of this year. Each of the lots here comply with all zoning requirements as far as upland land area. They all comply with 1 acre minimum zoning. These lots all consist of 80,000 to 97,000 square feet of land area. They all comply with the frontage requirements out on Chief Justice Cushing Highway, a minimum of 100 feet of frontage with each of the lots out here. The property is previously undeveloped. It is in a wooded state. The proposal here is to construct on each of the lots a duplex unit. The zoning bylaw allows by right on a lot that has twice the minimum upland area that you can include a duplex unit on it. So in total, we have 8 lots, each lot having a duplex. It's a total of 16 units proposed here. The proposal includes the 3 common driveways as depicted. Common driveways are designated in our zoning bylaw in section 720. Common driveways are allowed with a specific purpose. The purpose of a common driveway is to reduce the number of curb cuts onto a street, to protect sensitive areas, to decrease the limit of disturbance on the site, and to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff with development of the site. Each of these lots could have its own driveway servicing each of the duplexes. The proposal here is to service with 3 curb cuts instead of 8 curb cuts along the state highway. Reading section 720.3, the criteria for submittal of a common driveway plan. We've submitted the necessary plan, the necessary application, and the necessary agreement regarding the maintenance agreement on the common driveway area.
Flip it when you're done.
The design standards associated with common driveways are specified in section 720.7 of the bylaw. This project is fully compliant with section 720.7. The primary design criteria that we look at with design is that a common driveway cannot access more than 3 lots. The first common driveway here accesses 2 lots. The second common driveway accesses 3 lots. The third common driveway accesses 3 lots. Common driveways, secondly, need a minimum width. The pavement needs to be a minimum width of 14 feet. We've proposed a pavement width of 20 feet, which is the recommended width by the fire department. Common driveways cannot connect to each other is the third requirement of the bylaw. You'll notice that these driveways are independent of each other. They do not rely on each other for turnarounds, for utility accesses, or connections. They do all operate independently of each other. There are specifications on the construction of the driveway as opposed to having a 12-inch gravel base under the driveway, having a minimum of 3 inches of pavement on the driveway, having 2-foot shoulders down the side of the driveway. The plans specify compliance with the cross-section in accordance with the bylaw. The next design criteria we look at is the length of common driveways. Common driveways are allowed up to a maximum length of 1,000 feet. The common driveways in this proposal are 211 feet, 243 feet, and the longest one at 339 feet. All equipped with a turnaround at the end. The turnaround has a hydrant in the middle of each landscaped island, provides for emergency vehicular turnaround at the end. The next criterion on the common driveway is associated with stormwater runoff from the project. We had filed with this project as well a stormwater permit for the town's stormwater bylaw. We are collecting all of 100% of the roof areas and directing them into dry wells for infiltration. And then we are collecting the runoff associated with the common driveways themselves through a series of catch basins, swales, rain gardens, prior to ultimately discharge at the down gradient property line. That treatment stream that we've proposed, we believe complies with the Water Resource Protection District requirements, as well as it makes the pre versus post-development rates and volumes of runoff compliant with the bylaw. The last criteria is associated with the entrance geometry, complying with the site distances for a safe site distance onto the state highway layout. We've laid out a site distance plan. The minimum site distance required is 360 feet. We have that in all 3 instances, as we've documented on the plans, that there's 360 feet, not only with obstructions in the horizontal layout, but also with respect to the vertical curve as you come up the hill. We received numerous comments throughout the project. I do want to go through kind of some other project-wide issues as opposed to the specific common driveway. The Water Resource Protection District that we're in, that requires a minimum slope of a 4-to-1 slope or a 25% slope on any of our finished surfaces. This project does comply with the 25% 4-to-1 sloping. The zoning bylaw requires essentially a greenway along Route 3A, Chief Justice Cushing Highway. That greenway, we're supposed to maintain a 50-foot no disturbance setback with the exception for driveway accesses onto lots. The project does comply with the 50-foot. It also specifies a minimum of a 100-foot setback from the front property line to the nearest structure. The project does comply with the zoning bylaw with respect to all setbacks, not just on Route 3A, but also side yard and rear yard setbacks. As you likely recall from the A&R plan that was endorsed, the R1 zoning district with compliant lots does not require any sort of open space requirement. But this project here, the applicant has specifically included a dedicated open space or undisturbed buffer zone along the abutting residences to the west, along the back line, and then along a significant portion of the property on the south, all of which is located within the 200-foot Zone A to Tack Factory Pond, all of which is included in the deeded protected open space area. The project, as you see it, the dark green represents our no disturbance zones. The light green represents our limit of work or our limit of clearing. The project proposes to clear its 48% of the site while it maintains 52% of the site in open space. The comments that we had received were forwarded to us from the town planner. Running through those quickly, the fire department had comments regarding the radiuses of the turnarounds at the end. I didn't have a chance to meet with Deputy Elliott, but I will, and it seems like he wants the turnaround radiuses slightly larger. We had proposed them with an outside diameter of 42 feet, radius of 42 feet, which is what your subdivision specifications are. He wants a slightly larger radius. We can accommodate that, and we'll be updating that on the plan. There was also a concern regarding signage and identifying addresses on common driveways. We will add and provide to you, I expect this will be a continued public hearing, details of signage that we will include at the entrances, specifically identifying the addresses that are served by the 3 common driveways in this instance. The Water Resource Committee's comments had to do mainly with documenting compliance a little bit more with their bylaw regarding the 4-to-1 slopes regarding TSS treatment of the stormwater. And they made a request to reduce the width of the driveways from the 20 feet that we had proposed down to as much as 14 feet in an effort to reduce stormwater runoff. We would be willing to do that. The fire department, though, is requesting a 20-foot wide pavement. So I will talk with the fire department and we're at Water Resource Committee to come to a understanding on that. Conservation Commission had made a notation that the southern piece of the property was within a wetland resource area. I met yesterday with Sean McCarthy at the DPW. The DPW right now is in the process of doing some permitting associated with Tack Factory Pond. They want to raise the elevation of the water there by as much as 18 inches for additional storage for the town. I did receive copies of those plans from Mr. McCarthy. Yeah. The engineering company that was selected was Tetra Tech. Tetra Tech provided me with the proposed limits of the reservoir, which are what's shown in the darker blue here. And they had also just done recently a new wetland line along the edge of the reservoir. So our plans will be updated accordingly with that new information. It still, though, our project is outside of the limits of any Conservation Commission jurisdiction. We're outside of the 100-foot buffer zone and proposing all of our work outside of the 200-foot Zone A associated with Tack Factory Pond. The Historical Commission made a comment regarding a privately owned or privately operated grave site that's at the site. We believe that's in this notch right here in the western lot line. There was a request that we provide some sort of easement or access to that, and obviously that we don't disturb it. You'll notice that's within our open space area. We have no plans on disturbing it or going anywhere near it. We'll certainly work with the Historical Committee to provide some sort of access to that, whether that's a walking path or a parking space or an easement. We're certainly open to doing that and understand that concern. And that brings me to the town's consulting engineer, Merrill Associates. We received their comment letter, which we will be drafting a response to. We're going to be going out to the site next week doing some additional soil testing. There was a court request for some soil testing at our dry well locations and rain garden locations, so we'll be doing that, witnessed by the Board of Health next week. Providing some additional information on the erosion controls that we're proposing at the site. We do have erosion controls proposed around the entire limit of disturbance, but providing additional detail or perhaps a separate sheet documenting the locations of the construction entrances, the soil stockpile areas that would be associated with that. The curb cuts along Chief Justice Cushing Highway, providing some additional information there, documenting that we're not discharging out onto the state highway layout. As it's proposed right now, our grading indicates that we're carrying a 2% grade off of the highway onto the site. Mass Highway won't approve us to discharge onto 3A, so we're taking that first 20 feet there off of Chief Justice Cushing Highway and bringing that onto the site and putting that into our treatment stream. So I can provide some additional information on that. And lastly, in the draft condominium documents, in the condo docs and the common driveway documents would be a blanket easement. All of these common driveways rely on the next down gradient stormwater management system, so that at the down gradient property line we achieve compliance with the zoning bylaws. So there would be a blanket easement over this whole property for any of the owners here. They would all have the obligation to maintain and the ability to go onto any of the lots as well to take care of the drainage system. Sure. So common driveways are not it's not a roadway, okay? It's a privately owned driveway. It can never be accepted as a town-owned roadway. So when it comes to maintenance, the maintenance of the common driveway and the maintenance of the infrastructure supporting it, specifically the drainage infrastructure supporting it, is on the property owner. In this case here, we're gonna have 16 property owners. And so each of those property owners would have reciprocal easements over all of the lots here to be able to go on and perform the maintenance as outlined in their homeowners association, all of the lots.
Karen?
So, just to reiterate a little bit of what Mr. Morse said, yeah, we had comments from the Conservation Commission, which they indicated they'll be addressing. I think we would like to, I think it behoove the applicant to provide some type of information from Mass Highway Department that they could get this number of curb cuts onto the state highway. The fire department also had a concern, and we'd like to hear, why couldn't this be a subdivision? The fire department and others, I'm sure, on the planning board have concerns why this can't be a subdivision versus 3 common driveways. I intend to try to schedule an appointment the first week in September to go out and actually try to locate the graves. And then we'll be working with the Historic Commission if the graves are there for access easement. We need to know all the impervious area for the lots. You said you're going to be doing soil testing. There's concern about the location of the septic systems. Some of the lower septic system is within 400 feet of the reservoir, and some other Board of Health preliminary comments need to be addressed. The site distances, I think we need to know if those are stopping and intersection site distances. Obviously, we have concerns on the stormwater, and you seem to be taking into account the reservoir expansion, and I think we want more spot grades to show that the water is actually flowing the 2% into the site. And our consulting engineer, Peter Palmieri from Merrill, is here.
Mr. Palmieri?
Thank you, Peter Palmieri from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. Greg and Karen pretty much summarized everything that was contained in my letter. I do think that the cross easements or whatever should be very clear as far as the responsibility as well as rights to drain, because the system kind of carries itself down and relies on all of them to function, basically to provide the stormwater attenuation and treatment.
Does it rely on the grades to be maintained all the way down?
Well, the flow paths would have to continue in the flow paths that are there now. The natural grade will bring it as shown on the plan, but if, for example, this homeowner decided to do some grading in here
That's what I meant.
and altered it, consequently would affect the overall plan. So the answer to your question is the grading would be important to maintain it or make sure it goes in the direction that it's going on. I also, I'd be very careful in Mass Highway, as Greg is aware, they will not allow you to discharge, but if these driveways and this system is going to be taken in with the state highway drainage, the analysis as it is now does not indicate that. So it's got to be one way or another. The tributary line is right at the edge of pavement
I didn't
now.
understand that comment. So when you say it's tied into the state highway drainage,
No, if I said that, I
maybe I
didn't mean to say that.
misunderstood you. I'm just trying to understand.
You cannot drain onto the state highway.
Right.
So now the tributary line for what is coming into their system is right at the edge of pavement.
Yep.
It's going to have to stay that way. I think, if I understood Greg correctly, he said they were going to be accepting up to 20 feet of the runoff from the state highway. Well, the system as designed now doesn't show that. So it'd have to be taken into consideration, if that's gonna be the result.
Meaning from the actual road or from the,
From the actual roadway,
so it's going in?
yeah. And so you wanna, if you're showing a divide at the edge of pavement, it's gotta stay that way.
Okay.
I think that about covers it as far as my comments. I'll be careful on the site distance, because since this roadway has about a 6%, 7% slope, the safe stopping site distance will increase. And based on what I came up with, it's in the range of about 480 feet. So that should be checked. But again, they're gonna be submitting additional information, so I'll wait to hear from them on that.
It's also a 50-mile-an-hour speed zone.
I mean,
It's a
yeah,
50-mile-an-hour
exactly.
speed zone.
So that's, the speed and the grade has an impact on how long it takes to stop.
That's critical.
Yeah.
All right.
So unless the board has any questions, I'm all set.
Can you, while we're here, spot where the rain gardens are?
Yeah, the rain gardens, and Greg, you correct me. There's a rain garden here. This is a depression, then there's a rain garden here. This is a depression which goes into a rain garden here. So there's 3 rain gardens.
Is the stormwater generally flowing from right to left there, so it's headed to
It's
the
headed down
reservoir?
towards the reservoir.
And it will keep going towards the reservoir, correct?
Correct.
How does it flow on the back of the properties up on Old Forge?
That area comes down into basically the same general southerly direction of flow.
So this in no way affects that drainage?
Does not affect this drainage of the abutters to the west.
So will the driveways have to remain sort of untreated, like salt and all that? Because you don't want it flowing down to the reservoir, or?
That would be important, yes. The other thing that,
What's that?
due to the fact it's in the Water Resource Protection District,
Yeah.
all of these features should have some means to basically stop the runoff from going into the infiltration basins or rain gardens. There really isn't any method shown in the plan now. I did mention that in my report as well.
Could you just expand on that a little? They need
Well,
some
for
method to it?
example, if, say there was some sort of delivery truck here,
Yeah,
and its oil tank let go or something, well, there should be a way to stop the flow from getting into the stormwater system. Because once it gets in here, it's gonna flow down
go all the way.
and
yeah.
infiltrate through each one of these. There's various mechanisms, but, it should be accounted for.
Bill, anything?
How many homeowners agreements or associations do you have?
So it'll be one condo association, but there's 16 individual units.
Okay, so that, then it's a shared cost to maintain the driveway, or whatever needs to be done.
So in that way, it's acting more like a subdivision? Because normally it'd be just the common driveway and the houses, right? But,
They're usually mutually
So it's-
exclusive of each other, but now it doesn't appear that they are.
right, now the whole thing is acting like a subdivision in a way, in that you have to have easements from everybody, right? And there's a common association for all 16 units?
From what I understand, it's a common condo association that would cover the whole project, correct? Be similar.
Now, why can't this be a subdivision? Why can't it be similar to Doctor's Hill?
Sure. So it certainly could be a subdivision. There's 15 acres of land there. It could be a subdivision. Typically with a subdivision, you would have greater limits of clearing associated with the construction of a roadway and the layout of the lots themselves. You wouldn't have the flexibility. With a subdivision, you're typically doing a subdivision where you don't have frontage. The purpose of a subdivision is to create a road and create frontage. In this case here, we have in excess of 800 feet of frontage already available to us, already with utilities Purpose of a subdivision is to create that access, to provide vital access to the lots. That vital access already exists in this case.
This is on a state highway, though, where you want to
Correct.
minimize the number of curb cuts that you have, right?
Correct.
I mean, there's a purpose there as well.
And then to have basically 16 homeowners trying to do what needs to be done and to do it correctly, all you need is one, and you've got a mess. And I don't know, where is the enforcement in all of this? If it were a perfect world, great, but unfortunately, it isn't. And it's a concern, because this is in a very, very delicate area. This is our water.
Sure. Understood. If this was a subdivision, we'd be required to have a homeowners association with as many lots as there are would be number of members in the homeowners association. You'd be asking the same question regarding enforcement and people chipping into the homeowners association. This will have written into the condo docs, written into the deeds, the requirement for the maintenance, the requirement for any of those provisions. In the enforcement, I expect that your permit is going to require some sort of reporting, likely on an annual basis to the town, just as you do with your typical subdivision project.
Okay.
Yeah, have the condo docs been submitted?
I don't believe I've seen the condo docs. I know you have the easement docs,
We have
but
the easement.
we haven't seen the condo docs. We will need to see that.
Okay.
The other concern that I have is, these are all condominiums, they all will be sold. And oftentimes, condominium purchasers use them as sort of whatever, they rent them. And my concern would be, renters don't always have the same care, if you will, about the property.
Well, the renters aren't responsible for
No, they're not.
maintaining the property.
No, they're not, but they can also do things that they really shouldn't do.
But you could write that into
Yeah,
your
could
condo
we?
docs, because that's in mine.
It
You
is?
can't rent ours. Mhm.
I can look into that. That's
Thank
the
you.
same with single-family home.
That's in our master deed.
All right, great, good to know. All right, Rebecca, do you have anything?
You're saying you have a green space in the back between these and the subdivisions. How wide is that?
Sure.
Like this one back here. Yeah, that is-
80 feet wide at the widest point and 20 at the smallest, is that correct?
You go to the A&R plan.
It's about right.
So, in the back, this here is all dedicated open space from there. So all of that, and then all of this.
How much is
Yeah,
all of
Is
this?
this part of
minimum-
individual lots,
At the-
though?
7 acres.
So on a minimum, it's 20 feet at its narrowest point. At the high end on the north corner of the site, it's 20 feet. That 20 feet gets greater as you get down to the southern end of the site. At the southern end, down here, it's a minimum width of 40 feet.
Those are individually owned by the lot owners, though.
Correct, and it's written in the deed that it'll be protected, permanent open space. It's noted on the A&R plan that was endorsed by this planning board as well, that it's dedicated open space.
Rebecca, are you all set for that, for the moment?
Yep.
All right. Patty?
I'm all set now, thanks.
This is a public hearing, so if anyone would like to comment at this point in time, just identify yourselves, name and address, please. Anyone? Yes, sir.
Bill Richardson, 45 Cedarwood Road. Just picking up on this last point of information on the open space. Go back to the site plan and talk about what the setback requirement or objective was for the structures from the property line. I thought I heard you say 100 feet. And I would just ask what the northernmost distance is from that corner of the upper unit to the back lot line?
That was like the 20 feet, right?
So, this is in the R1 zoning district. The R1 zoning district, understood. The R1 zoning district requires a minimum rear yard of 30 feet as the rear yard setback from the structure. That structure that's right there is proposed at 32 feet from the rear lot line. Of that 32 feet, there's a 20-foot green space in there.
Second question, in terms of the cut and fill is a steep site, as you come down way up the structural part, does that later green area represent the extent of the cut and the associated fill as you step out?
Yes, it does.
And then the last question is these septic systems, and I guess the Board of Health has already commented on that. That also is a condo type situation?
So each lot is serviced by its own septic system.
Okay. And then the last question is how many under the R1?
So what does that mean? I'm sorry, don't leave that.
So there's eight individual septic systems. There's
So they
two
serve
owners
two
per, correct.
units.
Serves 2 units per septic system.
And that's all been perked?
It has been perked, it's been witnessed by the Board of Health. The individual designs have not been done, but the perks have all been witnessed and approved.
And then I guess the last question is just sort of a generic one. There are how many R1 parcels, lots here under the existing?
Sure. Existing today, this site is 10 legal lots. We have converted it to only be 8 legal lots.
But 16 units.
16 units.
16. Karen?
When were the perks done? When were the last perks done?
2004 was the last perk, I believe.
Nope, that's not acceptable. Nope. They
Perk
have to-
tests do not expire.
Well,
We're conducting additional perk tests next week, but perk tests do not expire per state regulation.
yes,
Judy Aronson, 19 Bedroom Road. I grew up with the property at the bottom of the hill, next to the tack factory. Back in 2003, we actually questioned the perks because they weren't witnessed. So then it went back and forth, and the board voted whether to witness them or not, and as far as I saw, they weren't.
you know what? Maybe it is the state regulation. Maybe you don't theoretically need to do this again, but it's 15 years down the road. And I think that it is in your best interest to do it again and have it witnessed. Yes, sir?
Hi, Steve Young, 5 Old Forge Road. If we talk about the perk test, there was perk tests that worked from, this is going back 2004. It only worked in one area, right? If you go back to the plan, it worked way up top.
In the corner, the northeast corner.
Yeah, in the top east corner. It only perked up here. This place is riddled with perks. Okay, this land went on auction for 25 grand, right? It's riddled with perk holes in it. It only perked up here. They were going to place it, and that's the main reason why they were only going to do 15 units at that time. This is 16 units, and nothing of these lots perked at all. They can only get it to perk up here. I guess at one point, there was shared septic system allowed. Now that's not the case, right? You have to perk each lot to make sure that it works. I don't know the bylaws, so I'm trying to figure that out.
Greg can tell you, but each lot has to have, each septic system has to have its perk, has to be perked.
Right, before you even propose something like this, right? So do we have the cart before the horse? That it only perked up here, it didn't perk down here, and we're talking about something that isn't even really valid to even say that, hey, we're gonna propose this before it's even perked or down here, right? You're gonna put a septic system down here that hasn't even been tested for one yet. It only was up here.
Okay.
And the amount of water that comes off here, right, that comes through all these backyards, that eventually does, right now, lead into the reservoir, it's amazing, right? I mean, we have butters right now that see it run through this property right here, right? And I guess one more question while I'm up here is, where does all this water currently go that's on the road?
On the road, it goes to the reservoir.
Directly into the reservoir?
Correct.
There's nothing else from the road, there's no other way, the storm drains go directly into the reservoir?
Water runs down the hill, there's catch basins in the state highway
Where
layout,
does
and
the
they
catch basins
discharge.
go?
They discharge to the wetlands adjacent to the reservoir.
Is that true? I don't know.
Yeah.
So they go directly into the reservoir?
If you go up and look at the drains that are there, they basically go right into the reservoir. There's no treatment, no anything.
I don't know, but I'm just telling you that the amount of water that comes off of this land that goes directly, that goes into the reservoir, you're gonna have fertilizer, you're gonna have everything that, and you don't even, I don't know.
Can we just ask Peter,
Peter?
have you looked at the perk tests,
I
the
haven't
data?
seen the purpose.
You haven't seen the data yet, so has that not been submitted?
Perk tests, we have approved.
The 2004 data?
Yeah,
that you're
we
talking
have,
about.
we have all the perks and all the approved septic locations. They're on record with the Board of Health. I will gladly provide copies of them.
We should probably look at those, right?
That's, as far as the, we didn't really look at the septic systems at all, but that's why we had also recommended, and Greg said they're gonna be doing it, sort of testing for the stormwater system.
All right. Okay, sir?
Mike Sheehan, 35 Stearns Road. So where the perk test would do and done in relation to those houses, where are those septic systems going? Is
Sure,
one of
so,
them, there's gonna be 8 septic systems?
correct,
And
8
where
septic
will-
systems.
What's that?
Correct, 8
And-
septic
and
systems.
where will they be going?
Sure. They're each shown on each of the lots here. There's a septic system here, septic system here, septic system here, 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 here. Septic system for this lot is right here. Septic system for this lot, the reserve area is right there. Septic for lot 2 is right there.
And those systems, are they pump systems, are they all gravity systems, or how are they?
They're primarily gravity septic systems. 1 or 2 of them might require a pump.
May require, do you know that
The septic systems aren't designed until after this. Those would require a separate approval from the Board of Health, but we have the perk test locations all done to know that it fully accommodates septics on each of these lots.
they? So the systems that are up there right now, like my system was $60,000 pumped up because the land is not perked well. And I just did another house around the corner, and we had to put a specialty system in there to make sure we didn't have to round that thing up. So I would think that you'd want to see the systems, because if they got a big mounted system that's going down the hill, continuing the water to go down, redirecting it maybe into the houses on Old Forge. And one other quick thing while I have your attention, the stormwater, I'm not an engineer, so I don't really understand, but right now, you're saying the water's running down the hill, and the state, right now, it's running off that land into the state highway and going down and directly into the reservoir. From what Greg described that, I don't know if I'm correct, but now that water is not gonna be able to leave that land. It's gonna have to stay on that land and go through that treatment system and go down to the reservoir. So is that water now diverted from 3A, going down to the stormwater, and now creating a river that's going right down the land into the reservoir that could break down by one of 8 of those houses there who does not maintain their property? And how much money is gonna be in the reserve to get started if it breaks down?
Good question. All right, Karen?
How are you going to access the site to do the perk tests?
There's a couple of paths that have been created out there in the past. As was stated, there's been a number of perk tests out there previously. We're going to come in off of 3A, work our way around the vegetation as much as we can, and
But you don't plan on cutting any trees down to do the perk tests?
there likely will be some vegetation that comes down when the excavator goes through. We're not going in and cutting trees or doing any sort of mass cutting area, no.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's John Warner. I don't live in the neighborhood. I live in 50 Brook Street, Central Harbor. The reason I'm here is because I drink town water. And I see this project as something that, the drainage is not an improvement. This plan is proposing drainage that will dump into the reservoir, which will impact our water supply. So I'm concerned about that. And one of the other concerns I have is that this property is, a substantial portion of the property is in the water supply protection area zone A. My understanding is that that area is defined by a 400-foot lateral distance from the upper boundary of the bank of the surface water supply. 400 feet, that's what the legislation states. This shows 200 feet, so the zone A area, which is not supposed to have any impact, drainage or septic systems, is, I believe, is more extensive than is shown on this plan. So I'm requesting that the planning board confirm that 200, which is correct, 200 or 400 feet. And the other point that I wanted to make is I'm reading the common driveway bylaw. You know, and the purpose of the bylaw, which requires a discretionary special permit from the planning board, is that to protect wetlands and sensitive natural areas from disturbance, including stormwater runoff. And I don't see this plan protecting the natural water body that's our surface water supply in any way. If I understand what the engineer just said, my understanding is that all the drainage on this entire 15-acre site is going along 3A towards the reservoir and will discharge into the reservoir. I don't understand why it's not retained on the property. It's adjacent to our water supply. Why isn't it retained on the property? I noticed that he said that the roofs are retained in wells. Well, the roof water has no pollutants. I don't care if that goes into the, the reservoir, you can drink that. But all the surface drainage, which can be on parking lots, herbicides for treating your lawns, spilled oil, who knows what else, will ultimately end up in our reservoir. I can't conceive of this being an improvement. It's a discretionary permit. I would not encourage approval of it. I do agree that shared driveways are an improvement to a subdivision because you have less surface area. So I don't have a problem with that. I really have a problem with the drainage here.
Okay.
I think it's very serious.
All right, thank you. All right, one more question. We have another public hearing at 8 o'clock. Please understand that this meeting will be continued, and your concerns that you have voiced here this evening will be looked into and addressed. So, one final comment.
So if you go back to the perk test that perked up here before, up on this, where they got it to perk, and they said that nothing else perked over here, and they were trying to put these units over here specifically and pump uphill, right? That was a whole big story back then. They were gonna have to pump uphill, and it was gonna cost a lot of money, but they got it to work somehow. There was also some retention ponds that were, so the huge issue that they were talking about before was these big, huge retention ponds that were gonna be like 8 feet tall. There was gonna be one big, huge retention pond, and then an overflow pond to make sure that nothing ever flowed into the reservoir directly, right? It did some sort of, whatever a retention pond does and the overflow does. I don't know, what he explained was saying that it's gonna go through and then eventually lead into the reservoir. All I know is that this is nowhere near what the plan looked like before, and I don't know if we're putting the cart before the horse as far as even talking about this type of stuff if we don't have perk tests.
All right, thank you, sir.
Hey.
All right, one final question.
Hi, Angela Harrington, 69 Annette Point Road in Plymouth. I'm trustee of 7H Trust and part owner of the 15 acres. I'd just like to point out to the board and the community that this project, not. In the past, there were 3 different building projects approved over the years with 3 curb cuts, with 8 curb cuts. There have been many approvals on the same piece of property, some with 8 septic systems, some with 16, up to 16 dwellings in the past.
All right.
This is nothing new.
All right.
And it's our understanding, and I have copies at home from the town of Scituate, that the perk tests are good forever.
Thank you.
You
Bill?
I guess one of the things that concern me is you're basically going to be clear cutting half of it. And I'm just wondering how you're going to be able to control that process. while you were coming up the building, so.
Sure. I mean, one of the things that's nice about the three individual common driveways is they are separated by a little bit of vegetated buffer between the two of them as well. We will have to include erosion control devices on the down gradient, and we're proposing it on the uphill side of all of our clearing, just to contain everything within each of the projects. But you do also have a lot of natural vegetation in between the sites as well. I will look into whether the developer is planning on phasing the common driveways, or if he's looking at doing it in one fell swoop. I will get you an answer on that.
Okay, the other question I have is going back to basically all of the treatment, whether it's the gardens or whether it's just the swales or whatever. There's like 3 or 4 made key points, and I guess I'm not sure that I understand how you're gonna inspect at each one of those and maintain each one of those so it does its function.
Sure. So the association, the condo association, would likely hire a professional engineer or a stormwater management professional that would come out typically on an annual or semi-annual basis and perform any inspections. They would likely work with the landscape company that would be hired again by the association to perform any cutting or debris removal or sediment removal after, winter sanding, et cetera. So it would be a collaborative effort, but I imagine that the association will be hiring a professional to do
Verging on not being able to pass a straight face test, I think.
What's that?
I said it's verging on not being able to pass a straight face.
Yeah.
Karen?
I think that the board should ask to see some of the NIPDIS requirements right up front, because you want to know that all the stormwater during construction is going to be staying on that site. The board has experienced problems on other projects, and this is in a very sensitive area.
Yes.
And I think we need to see the NIPDIS requirements are going to be met.
Okay. So, all right.
One last comment.
One last.
Nick, it goes to Peter. I liked your analysis. It was very good.
Thank you.
All set?
Yep.
All right.
One other just observation comment that somebody raised here is if you end up with raised mounded septic systems, that changes the grade and potentially changes stormwater flow, right? So don't you have to design that first in order to?
Correct. So I shouldn't say that we haven't designed the septic systems. We haven't submitted them to the Board of Health for approval. But absolutely where we've cited them, we've looked at the soil test data and we've looked at the groundwater data in those locations. The grading as proposed here is reflective of where those septic systems would be sited. They are raised septic systems from what natural grade is out there. However, there is soil being brought in around the septic systems as well so that they won't appear as mounded septic systems. The grade around them is being brought up as well. We did take that into full consideration. They just have not been submitted to the Board of Health yet for approval.
Sorry,
So
one more.
none of these are going to be above grade.
No.
All the septic systems will not have an above grade.
When you go out to the site and look at
You're
the septic
bringing a fair
system
amount
over
of
there, it's
filling?
going to be flat, correct.
They're all gonna be above grade. They're not gonna appear to be, but they're all gonna be above grade. That whole thing.
All right. Just, I know.
Face test, I get it. Yeah.
I think that the board should ask for quantities of cut and fill that are going to be brought to this site, because I'm sure this
getting
site
Yes.
is a glacial till site.
Right.
And, I mean, there's going to be a lot of fill brought in for this site.
Okay.
So you're-
We have another, I'm sorry, sir, we have another public hearing. We have to continue this, Patty?
So I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for the common driveway special permit for 443-461 Chief Justice Cushing Highway until October 10th, 2019 at 8 p.m. And to continue the time for action for filing with the town clerk until October 31, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming,
you.
and you will be heard.
Thank you.
That's a tight neighborhood. That's a tight neighborhood.
Seems like a weird place to put a big subdivision like that. What?
What are you gonna do when you go up to the grave site? and find that the body's been washed down the hill.
Smallpox.
All right, we have a,
One at the cemetery, and all the bodies have been washed away down to 3A.
there you go. All right. Okay, we now have a public hearing, special permit for an accessory dwelling at 10 Woodworth Lane, which is off of Old Oak and Bucket Road.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, it's the first 15 minutes.
That was the bodies.
Yeah, we're gonna sponsor it. My common driveway.
Good evening.
Hi,
Hi.
ready to go or?
We're ready to go.
Okay, great. I'm Paulette O'Connell from Oco Architecture and Design. I'm here on behalf of the owners. This is Chris Diamua. So we're here today to look for an accessory dwelling special permit to a single-family residence, obviously at 10 Woodworth Lane. The proposed design, you can see both on your plans or here. It's an existing single-family dwelling. We're proposing the addition to the side. The addition is 885 square feet, which is 37.3% of the existing single-family dwelling, which is 2,732. So it meets the bylaws of being less than 40% of the existing dwelling. Part of that is just a small little attachment. We're trying to detach a little bit from the house. So part of it is just a hallway to get over to the proposed addition. We're proposing 2 parking spaces up in the front of the new addition, and the access is here on the side. And I have a actual floor plan here. So the shaded is the existing, and this is the new. So we're proposing just 1 bedroom, walk-in closet, sort of separate bath, open living kitchen area. The idea is that in the future this could also be turned into sort of a games room or something like that. The existing house is a 4-bedroom. It's a 4-bedroom septic. We got a letter from the Board of Health saying they'd like a deed restriction, noting that it would be a 4-bedroom home. And the plan is on the 2nd floor to take out the closet and open up the doorway, everything on this 4th bedroom, to turn it into an office for Chris, who works at home. His office is currently residing in the master bedroom, so we're going to move it over to that location. This site plan is proposed by Ross Engineering. The new parking and everything will be like shells or gravel with shells, so it would be all permeable, so we stay underneath the stormwater requirements here. On the site plan, they've got impervious areas and everything noted there. I can either read it off or you can. Lastly, everything else is within, it's an R1 district, and everything is within the existing setbacks. The proposed setbacks that are required. I don't know if you guys can see this. Trying to twist this to you.
Where are the means of egress?
So there is a door. The entry, so this is the front of the house. When I come up here, there's an entry here, and then there's also a slider out to a deck in the back that will have steps down to the rear yard.
Is there any other place to put the parking?
So we tried to move that around a couple times. There's an existing catch basin on the site. Yeah, that was noted here. This catch basin, because we wanted to kind of slide it up here, but the engineer said that we didn't have enough room between the property line and the catch basin, and trying to get it as far off of, front of the yard, that was as close as we could get to get the turnarounds. So, actually moving existing catch basin, there really was no other way to get that there. The grading on the site is fairly significant. It's going to be an elderly person who moves here, so to have both parking spaces over here really be detrimental in bad weather to get over to the other side.
But I would think that having the parking space here in front of the proposed addition, when the door is over to the side,
Yeah.
would be equally difficult for an
Well,
elderly person.
We're trying to turn it a little bit so that she could be parking here and getting out as close as possible to the entry. It's changed a little bit based on some comments that we did receive. We tried to manipulate it a couple times based on knowing that we didn't want to see it smack dab.
Is that a
in front
different
yard.
drawing than what we had?
Sorry, I thought I had sent that on, but I guess
No,
it didn't
we
get
didn't
forwarded.
have
I
that one.
apologize. So there was a question, you know, that they wanted to be in the
So
front.
this is a
we're-
later revision.
Yeah, we were
What's
trying
the
to.
revision date?
Well, it says June 27th, but I
This says
don't
July
see-
6th, no.
no, it
July
says
24th?
I had.
Oh, revised July
24th.
24th. Okay.
Sorry.
July 24th, Karen.
All right, yeah, we have that plan.
Okay.
I thought I sent that to you.
Why can't you push
Maybe I'm
this
looking at the
further,
wrong one.
closer to the house, so that the parking spaces are
Well,
up?
we could
So-
push it closer up toward the house. That's not an issue per se. It was just, we were really trying to tuck it, like my sketch to the engineer was it over here. And the engineer said that we just couldn't fit the entry there, but we could move it closer to the house.
I would think that it would behoove you to move it
Okay.
closer to the house,
That's not an issue.
so that otherwise you've got a lot of pavement up here, right on the street.
Okay, all right, I see that. Yeah, I thought, my interpretation for the email was that we didn't want it, like right from the house, so I was trying to push it out. I was thinking that was what they wanted, but if you want it closer to the house, we're
do you
totally
think,
amenable
Karen?
to that.
Well, the site is in the Water Resource Protection District, so, I mean, obviously to minimize the impervious area would be the best thing, and gravel is
Well, you said you were
considered
gonna do
impervious.
shells or something like that,
Something
right?
like that.
Okay. Yeah, so we should keep it pervious then.
Yeah, no, that's the plan.
Yeah.
And now, is there a second floor on this? It appears from this.
No, it's just a vaulted ceiling. No, no attic, no nothing. It's just vaulted.
And this says
Do you want me to leave
bedroom,
this site plan with you, this big one?
Karen, do you want this?
do you have this?
I have the July 24th one that shows 2 parking spots that are a little bit further away, and it shows a walkway going up
So
to
is there anything
the
else that's changed?
door.
No, that was it.
I mean,
Don't you
Bill
wanna
and
see this?
Patty might want to see it, but I get it. Yeah. I see this is marked as bedroom 4, but it's really only one bedroom.
That was the existing bedroom floor, then we're opening it all up, so it's gonna be coming off. Oh, this is bedroom?
No,
Yes.
this is bedroom 4.
So there were 4 bedrooms upstairs, we're turning one into an office, and this will become the 4th bedroom. On the
Well,
4th
this is
bedroom
really
subject.
one bedroom for the accessory dwelling though, right?
I guess that's true.
And this is
I was doing
this
it
is
for
a
the.
3-bedroom
yes.
house and a 1-bedroom accessory
Yes.
dwelling. Okay.
I was
just,
sort of septic wise, I was saying this is the
Yeah,
4th
yeah,
bedroom.
yeah.
But yes,
Okay.
you're right. No, there's no, you couldn't fit 4 bedrooms, that's small space.
and is this separately metered for water?
It will, as a requirement for the
Yeah.
town, yes.
Okay. And what about exterior lighting on it? Is there any exterior lighting on it? Like at the entryway?
We will have something out here at the entry,
Uh-huh.
and probably a light out on the back deck.
And
both
is
ends.
that in any proximity to the abutting neighbor? Like to the left there?
Not remembering, so your neighbor to the left.
Yeah.
They're
so-
fairly.
They're pretty far
set
away?
pretty
Yeah,
far away.
the home is about right
Okay.
here. It's a little setback. The driveway goes uphill right here, so the lighting would be further down the driveway.
Uh-huh.
The driveway side of the house, so
Yeah.
in a way it's.
Would it be sort of downlighting as opposed to,
Actually, that's our
Floodlight.
style that we have on the rest of the house is down lighting only.
Okay.
So that, I forget what they call it.
I think that would be good.
Rebecca?
I don't have any questions right yet.
Bill?
I'm also.
Karen?
today. No, it's just unfortunate. I think the driveway kind of looks plopped in the front of the house.
There's nothing else on the street that looks like that at all,
No,
right?
there's nothing.
well, how do you get the other house? Is the drive, oh, well, it's on this,
Yeah.
All the other
Well,
houses
it's
in
on
the
the side
neighborhood
of the
just have
house.
one driveway going, into the house, very, very similar to this, this house right now. They have driveway, going to a garage area.
It's pretty hard to avoid with the existing driveway though, huh?
Yeah.
Because there's kind of no way to get over from there to the accessory dwelling.
No, it's on the other side, right?
Okay. Anything else?
I see there's a tree here. Is the tree staying? Or is that a
No,
planted
it'll-
tree?
There is one tree over in that area that will get, no, that will have to get removed, it's just
Yeah.
too close.
That's what I
It's
was
a
thinking,
very
yeah.
large
Yeah.
willow, so it has to come down.
Yeah.
Probably not a bad idea. They have very shallow roots.
They do.
Suck
And they have a
everything.
tendency to go.
Topple. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Johnny?
Oh, gosh, okay. I move to make the following findings of fact. One, on July 16, 2019, Kristen Dean Muha applied for a special permit for an attached accessory dwelling on the property at 10 Wood Lane. Two, based on the floor plan submitted by the applicant, the floor area of the proposed accessory dwelling will be approximately 885 gross square feet. This is 37.3% of the total square footage of the primary dwelling, which is 2,732 square feet, according to the application. This meets the size requirements of 530.2F of the zoning bylaw for accessory dwellings, as the bylaw allows 750 square feet or 40% of the total square footage of the primary dwelling. Whichever is greater, the accessory dwelling is subordinate to the existing single-family home. 3, the accessory dwelling unit will be a complete, separate housekeeping unit, and there will be only one accessory dwelling on the lot. 4, the proposed attached accessory dwelling structure meets all of the required setbacks, building height, and yard requirements for a primary dwelling. 5, the proposed accessory dwelling is located on the west side of the primary dwelling. Access will be via a gravel walkway leading from the proposed new parking pad to the front door. 6, the appearance of the accessory dwelling is in keeping with the appearance of the primary dwelling in the surrounding neighborhood. 7, the site plan for 10 Woodworth Lane shows a gravel parking area for 2 vehicles with 2 9-by-18-foot gravel parking spaces for the accessory dwelling. This appears adequate to provide 2 parking spaces for the accessory dwelling. Excuse me. The primary dwelling shows an attached 2-car garage with room for 2 vehicles outside. Ample parking appears to be provided.
Do you want me to take over?
Yeah.
8, the owners have submitted a signed and notarized statement that they will be occupying 10 Woodworth Lane as their primary residence. 9, the accessory dwelling will be serviced by an existing 4-bedroom septic system. The primary dwelling has 3 bedrooms, as 1 bedroom will be decommissioned in the primary dwelling, and the attached accessory dwelling will have 1 bedroom. All provisions of the Board of Health and Title V must be met. 10, the application meets the standards of the Scituate zoning bylaw for accessory dwelling special permit. Is there a second on the findings of fact?
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion first.
Yes, go for it.
We didn't ask this as we went through, but architecturally, is this sort of similar to the primary dwelling?
We did have,
I just want to make sure we're sort of, it's consistent with
You're not
what we
putting the dog
normally
on the
look at.
tail,
Yeah.
basically.
So is this, is it sided the same, is it same, sort of the same design style and all of that?
sorry, I thought I had
sorry, I
submitted
should have asked that
elevations as
question
part
earlier.
of that.
Here it is.
Or do you have the elevation?
I want to see a picture.
They're in here somewhere, just gotta find them. How's that? Yeah.
Yeah. Have that, yeah.
So this clapboard and this clapboard's all the
Yeah,
same?
it's all gonna be
and
the
then-
same.
Okay.
The only thing we're doing is
Okay.
the bay window, we're doing solid panels.
Okay,
Okay.
I neglected to ask that question, I just wanted to know.
You all set? Matt?
Yeah, and then, on number 9, it says primary dwelling has 3 bedrooms, as 1 bedroom will be, and I would just say permanently decommissioned.
Mhm.
That would be the only change.
All right, all in favor, as amended?
Aye.
I move to approve the special permit for an accessory dwelling at 10 Woodworth Lane with the following conditions, in addition to the standard conditions for accessory dwellings approved by the planning board after a public hearing on 12/17/15. 1, except for any changes necessary to meet these conditions, any construction shall substantially conform to site plan for 10 Woodworth Lane in Scituate, Mass. By Ross Engineering Company, Inc., dated 6/27/19, with revisions through July 24th, 2019, and architectural plans by OCO Architectural Design consisting of 4 sheets, including A01, 10 Woodworth Lane, first floor plan, A02, 10 Woodworth Lane, second floor plan, A03, 10 Woodworth Lane, front elevation, A04, 10 Woodworth Lane, side and rear elevations dated 6/19/19. 2, the number of bedrooms in the accessory dwelling is limited to 1 in the location and size indicated on the floor plan submitted with the application. The number of bedrooms in primary house is limited to 3. 3, no further expansion of the accessory dwelling. Floor area is allowed without further review by the planning board. 4, upon occupancy of the accessory dwelling, the applicant shall provide a notarized affidavit that they are living in one of the dwelling units. A yearly certification that the owner occupies one of the dwelling units must be provided by March 1st yearly. 5, all requirements of the Board of Health must be met prior to occupancy of the accessory dwelling. 6, the accessory dwelling shall conform to all applicable standards in the building, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, fire, and health codes and bylaws. 7, water connection must meet all requirements of the DPW Water Division for the accessory dwelling. 8, any lighting installed shall be downlighting to not shed light on abutting properties. 9, all construction work shall not begin prior to 7 a.m. weekdays and 8 a.m. on Saturdays, and shall cease no later than 7 p.m. or sunset, whichever is earlier. No construction shall take place on Sundays or legal federal holidays. Construction includes idling of vehicles, delivery of materials to the site, and all other construction activities. 10, the limit of work shall be staked in the field and verified that disturbance is less than 15,000 square feet. If a stormwater permit is needed with verification from the Stormwater Authority, the owner shall apply for one. 11, runoff from the proposed accessory dwelling shall not be increased from the property. 12, runoff from the proposed accessory dwelling rooftop must be designed to recharge the first 1 inch of rainfall with any infiltration devices having a 3-foot minimum separation between the bottom of the structure and the maximum groundwater elevation. A plan shall be provided to the town planner for approval prior to construction showing how the infiltration requirement will be met. If stormwater is to be infiltrated, a test pit shall be done and included showing the maximum groundwater elevation. A plan shall be provided to the town planner for approval prior to construction. 13, erosion and sedimentation control devices shall be installed to prevent any erosion or sedimentation from leaving the site during construction. Silt sock shall be used. 14, no finished slope shall be created that exceeds 25% with the exception of side slopes associated with new road construction. 15, an artificial recharge system for precipitation shall be provided that will not result in the degradation of groundwater quality if the lot is rendered to have more than 15% or 25,000 square feet, whichever is greater, of impervious soil.
2,500.
2,500, excuse me. Is there a
Second.
second? Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
You have
Thank
your
you.
accessory apartment. You understand there is a 20-day appeal period once this is filed with the town clerk.
Thank you.
No, mine's right here. Here's that is. All or none. Printer. Yes, here. Well, thank you. You're welcome. All right, we have a Form A for 97 Edward Foster Road. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Adam Brodsky. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Maureen Colvin. I'm actually filling in for David Ray, our professional land surveyor from Nantasket Survey Engineering, who couldn't be here this evening. And we've submitted an approval not required plan to divide the existing lot at 97 Edward Foster Road into 2 conforming lots. The property is located within the Residence 3 zoning district. The current property, the total lot, consists of 28,007 square feet. Within the R3 zoning district, we require each lot to have 10,000 square feet and 100 feet of frontage. You'll note from the site plan, and I'm sorry I don't have a blow-up for the board to display, that there's an existing single-family house at the southern end of the parcel. To the north is an area of salt marsh, and Maureen has confirmed the boundaries of the salt marsh through an order of resource area delineation issued by the Town of Scituate Conservation Commission. You also note that a portion of the lot, again, the northern portion of the lot, is located within the Town Floodplain Overlay District, which has been mapped on the A&R plan. If you're familiar with the property slopes from the salt marsh at the bottom of the hill up towards Edward Foster Road. And the area between the salt marsh and the existing house is presently lawn. We're proposing 2 lots, each of which meets the dimensional requirements under R3 zoning. Parcel A, which is the lot to the north, will have 18,084 square feet, of which 14,039 square feet are uplands, the rest being the delineated salt marsh areas. Parcel B, with the existing house, will have 10,143 square feet. So there's one unusual aspect of this property. The property topography changes as you move up slope, as you get closer to the house. And that area where the slope changes actually coincides with the FEMA flood zone. It's an AE 15 flood zone. DEP, which has a policy, it's policy 92-1, which talks about coastal banks. And so you're more familiar with a coastal bank. It's adjoining a coastal beach. You see them throughout town. Well, DEP within the policy also considers a change in elevation along the shoreline to potentially be a coastal bank if the slope is greater than 10-1 and less than 4-1 and coincides with the floodplain. So if you would look at DEP's policy in the wetlands regulations, that would define a coastal bank in the middle of our lawn next to our house. We consulted with DEP what to do about it. They basically said, well, I mean, I'm sorry, that's a function of the regulations. So when the ANRAD was submitted to the Conservation Commission, we actually showed that area of coastal bank. It's shown on the plan, and if you have a colored version, it's sort of grayed in. It's under a portion of the decks for the house. We believe that when you calculate lot area under the zoning bylaw, you're familiar that you're required to exclude certain types of wetlands, but you're not required to exclude coastal bank. The relevant section is 610(1)A, which only requires that you exclude, I'm going to quote from it, land under water bodies, comma, bogs, comma, swamps, comma, wet meadows or marshes as defined in Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40. That's the Wetlands Protection Act. So when you calculate the required lot area under the Scituate zoning bylaw, you're to exclude land under water bodies, bogs, swamps, wet meadows, or marshes as defined in the Wetlands Protection Act. The bylaw does not reference coastal bank. As I suggest, it's not really a coastal bank. It's not adjacent to a coastal beach, but because of this unusual set of circumstances where you have a change in topography in an existing lawn, and coexistent with the floodplain, we delineated it as coastal bank. But again, I don't think that with respect to the calculation of lot area, it matters. So it's our position that we're demonstrating that we're showing 2 conforming lots, meeting all of the dimensional requirements for a lot within the R3 zoning district.
Okay. Karen?
Well, the planning board is tasked with, for dividing a lot to have access and frontage. I would say that these 2 lots have access and frontage, although I don't quite know how the front lot's gonna be able to get access with the driveway as it is, but I would say they have access and frontage, and the board should endorse the plan. Whatever requirements are required for building under the FEMA floodplain will have to be met, and that's
the way it is.
That's the way it is.
Okay.
The line on the plan where the floodplain district is the line shown on the plan. This is basically the Doherty case again, but in, this one, it's the line on the plan, and this one is further away, so that the land is not in the floodplain district.
Comments from the board? Bill?
Nope.
So I guess I'm confused. So this says FEMA flood zone AE elevation 15. That looks like it cuts right through that first lot. Right?
Correct. There are 2 different floodplains, just so you understand. One is the town floodplain overlay district. You'll see that that line is further downslope to the north of the site. And so that's a separate discussion if you were going to build within the town floodplain. We don't think that we need, if anyone's going to build there, they're not going to build likely within the town floodplain, which is a whole nother discussion with the Zoning Board of Appeals. The FEMA floodline, that is correct. It's essentially elevation, and you'll see the 15-foot contour. And it's simply this coincidence, and again, likely not relevant to your determination to endorse the A&R plan, but full disclosure, we just wanted to make sure that we're upfront with the town. We have this odd anomaly of a slope in the middle of the lawn, greater than 10-to-1, but less than 4-to-1, which happens to coincide with the FEMA floodplain, which DEP's policy suggests it's a coastal bank, although it doesn't look like or really function as a typical coastal bank. So, again, we're being cautious by disclosing, all of the warts on this particular plan.
Just because we grant you the A&R doesn't mean you can build.
Of course not.
Doesn't mean it meets zoning, so.
So I'm just curious, is that the purpose here?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
You're gonna rebuild this house?
I believe, Maureen can speak to it. I think the intention is for her to build a small house for herself on parcel A, and then give her children the house on parcel B. That's the.
Can anything be built on parcel A?
Yes, because.
It's 14,000 square feet of upland, and I'm
Right.
thinking really, literally like a little retirement cottage, like 25 by 25.
Oh, you could locate a small structure within the building setbacks as shown on the plan and stay out of the town floodplain.
Well, regardless, that's up to whomever. You have to go, doesn't the zoning board of appeals deal with floodplain special permits at this point?
Yeah, I mean, if we needed.
That's not our.
It's not our purview.
It's not your
Okay.
purview.
All right, we have a, go ahead.
I move to endorse as approval not required a plan of land in Scituate, Mass. Showing a division of parcel 51-2-1, 97 Edward Foster Road, prepared by Nantasket Survey Engineering LLC for applicant Maureen Colvin, FKA Maureen E. Lewis C. Strand, dated 8/16/16, with revisions through 7/18/19, as the division of land shown on the accompanying plan is not a subdivision because it shows every lot in the plan has frontage of at least the distance presently required under the Scituate zoning bylaw on the public way of Edward Foster Road, and that the division of the tract of land is not a subdivision because it shows a proposed conveyance or change in lot line which does not alter the existing frontage as required under the Scituate zoning bylaw.
Is there a second?
Yep. I have a question, I'm just I'm just reading a note on this plan. It says the purpose of this plan is to create 2 buildable parcels. We're not endorsing that at all.
No. We're only asking for
So
endorsement
I
under
don't even
this.
know why we need it on the plan.
We just have
Well,
to
but you'll
stamp.
put, we'll put our
stamp it.
zoning stamp
I don't even
on
know why
it.
we need this on the plan.
Well, they
We
just
don't,
didn't.
really,
But
right? Because this is an A and R, right?
it's an A&R plan.
I assume the survey did that just for informational purposes, but it's, has no legal meaning based under the subdivision control.
All right,
Just to be clear.
just to be clear.
Our job is 1 line, 2 lots.
One
What's
line.
that?
One line, 2 lots.
Our job's 1 line, 2 lots.
There you go. All right, all those
Or
in
not
favor?
necessarily buildable.
Right.
No.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
All right, we are 10 minutes ahead of schedule. Is Peter Fiore here?
I saw him out in the hallway.
Aren't you?
I have to jump on the property and look at it.
With that? Oh, I know, it floods all the way up to here. I used to live right there. It would be really far.
All right, we have, this shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. If you would identify yourself and tell us why you're here.
Peter Fiore, this is Greg Morse, the engineer, and we're here for a bond reduction on the Glen, the project over off of Summer Street.
Okay? Karen?
So we had, the applicant has been working on the subdivision. The planning board currently has $113,000 in cash surety being held in an interest-bearing account. And the subdivision is winding down, and so they're asking for some surety back. We've had our consulting engineer go out, and our consulting engineer has given you basically 2 estimates for the work. This is one where the applicant has indicated that the former town planner made some agreements about some of the landscaping that didn't need to be done, etc. I can't find anything in the files, so it's my recommendation that I asked because it's on the subdivision plan, that's why it was included in the first estimate, but that's why I asked for a second estimate. I have to believe Mr. Fiore that these agreements were made, and therefore I would recommend that you go with that she agreed to waive some of the trees being planted, and that they added several nice pine trees adjacent to the septic system to help screen the septic system from the unit. So I would recommend that you have the surety release $91,310 from the $113,000 to complete the remainder of the work. Mr. Fiore intends to complete the bioretention area in the fall, and there's a few other minor items that need to be done as well.
Do we have that estimate?
I thought I
Is
sent
it
it.
in here?
No, I didn't print out, we didn't print out everything
I was
tonight.
looking for that.
By
'cause
email.
I wanted, maybe that's the one I missed. I won't write on it.
That's the 20,000, and this is, did a revised estimate for 30,000. This was the first estimate where, I mean, because technically, you know, you guys are the ones who should be saying, yeah, you don't have to do the street trees, etc.
So are you recommending the 20,000? Is that the one?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
that's the one I'm recommending.
Okay. I just wanted to, I didn't see this, so I wanted to see the numbers. So these are all the things that basically Chessie is saying we should reserve for?
Yes.
So there's some plantings, but not
It
all
was
of the
just,
plantings?
it was just one dead tree, I believe.
Well, I see oak leaf hydrangeas, rhododendrons.
But that has a 0 next to them, right? I thought that's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, that was because they were not, they were specified on the original plan around the septic system, and some of them were planted, not all of them, but in exchange for that, there was, I didn't count them when I went out there with John Chessie, maybe, I don't know, 10 or 15 large white pines to screen the septic system from the units, which I think it was a good addition. So in exchange for, not doing all the oak leaf hydrangeas and everything like that, they did these pines.
And then we would hold the remaining money for how long?
Well, until the work is done, they'll have to come back again.
I guess I'm asking, how long will it take?
We're hoping to finish up in the fall.
In the fall?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do want to point out, this is a condo project also. So this got converted from a subdivision to a condo project too.
So there were condo docs filed and all that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
All the
Yes.
units are sold and master deed was all done.
This road is to also remain private in perpetuity.
And the reserve for the maintenance fund is for,
That's according to the subdivision control law that you're supposed to have that. So how I got to the 91,310 is I took 20,000 from 113, and then I subtracted the other 1687 to keep that in the surety as well. But, it has been turned over to the condo association.
right, so we're just preserving some money
We're
if something
preserving.
happens and we have to do
Right.
some maintenance. Okay.
Right.
All set?
Yeah, I need my glasses.
Well, I can't help you with that, dear.
Yeah, no, this looks fine.
Patty, does anybody else have any comments?
I move to approve a reduction in the amount of surety being held by the planning board for completion of the Glen subdivision, Kevin's Way, of $91,310 from $113,000, to complete the remainder of the work, including the bioretention area 2 and other items as outlined in the surety estimate provided by Chessia Consulting Services LLC dated 8/6/2019, which includes a 10% maintenance fee.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, we did have a couple other things if we could add to. There was a comment on some bounds on John Chessier's comments here. One of the retaining walls is right on the line, and we had to put drill holes in because there wasn't any room to put the bounds in. So we wanted to see if we could get a waiver on those 2 bounds and use drill holes for that.
Yeah, exactly. Drill holes are a common surveyor demarcation in the field for noting lot corners.
We did see the drill holes in the wall when we were out there. They were a little hard to find unless you know where you're looking, but the drill holes were there.
Can I handle it as a field change?
Yeah, can be handled as a field
I
change.
handle it as a field change.
Okay.
Okay.
The second one is.
So there was some driveway lights that were on the landscape plan. These units are all duplexes, and we didn't know how to separate the power to the lights, so we put, instead of one light in front of each driveway, we put them a little further in, but we put one at each house, so everybody has their driveway lights that are a little further in, and they're on photo sensors. But the plan did show, and John did comment about the lights on that, and we wanted to see if we can get a waiver on those.
I think that's another field change.
Well, okay, I'm confused. You're asking to strike them off of the reserve.
No.
No.
No, he's not.
Oh,
No.
we could do both,
No.
because if they're not gonna be put in, we'd
Well,
like not to put them.
I'm trying to figure out what you're asking for.
They want to waive the,
Well, he just said both. Right? Right now, all we're taking up is a release of this, right?
And then the other two items are a field change that have nothing to do with that. Am I correct?
Is that right?
Well, I mean, I think he may be asking to get more money back.
Are you asking to get more money back?
Yes, so if we could not put those in and then reduce it by the streetlights of,
You know, hey, let's do this.
Sure.
Okay, let's do this. You have to finish this subdivision, which you're going to finish in the fall.
Mhm.
And then you can come back and get the rest of your money, which would include the lights
Okay.
that didn't go in. So we want to keep this simple,
Perfect.
okay?
Yep.
So you're going to get your $91,310. Let's not get too carried away.
Okay, just asking.
Okay. Hey, you can ask.
Just like to ask.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
So we
Just say
could
no.
do a field change with the
Yes,
lights?
yes.
I will write a letter so that
Yes,
you
to-
will know that we accept that as a field change, so that, and John will be copied on the letter, so next time they appear on a surety estimate, they won't be there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my God, we're right on time.
We'll process that,
No blood yet.
Huh?
No blood yet.
Not yet.
Oh, we're working on it, though.
It's got our church there, we can't be bleeding out.
No. Okay, our next item is site plan waiver for St. Mary, St. George Coptic Orthodox Church. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Hazem Dani from CHA Consulting. I'm here representing the Coptic Orthodox Church in Scituate, Massachusetts, located at 2731 Hood Road. We are here for a site plan waiver request in accordance with Section 770.2A of the zoning bylaw. Our site is located at 2731 Hood Road, and it consists of 15.2 acres of land, which includes the existing church building, an existing school building, parking lot, sidewalks, and associated site lighting. Our project consists of clearing an area of 1.6 acre and adding a small playground area, 1,750 square feet, which is 50 by 35. Our work encroaches on areas jurisdictional under the Conservation Commission. We have obtained an order of condition and a stormwater permit through the Conservation Commission on August 6th. And then after that, we were asked to whether apply for a site plan review or a site plan waiver. We believe that the site does not require a site plan review because it does not require changes to the existing utilities. It does not add flows to water consumption or sewage flows. Additionally, it does not require additional parking. It does not require modification to the site exits and entrances. And we do believe that it's considered an internal change, and there is no structures proposed other than the playground area, which has been set back more than 120 feet away from the closest abutter. We also provided sufficient vegetation buffer on the northerly side and on the southerly side of the project. We have been in compliance with the stormwater bylaw and stormwater regulations, and as I mentioned, we have obtained the stormwater permit through the Conservation Commission. Also, the wetland line has been confirmed with the Conservation Commission. With that, I'll leave it for questions.
Are you bringing any heavy equipment in to take down any of whatever it is that you're taking down?
There will be heavy equipment, such as excavators and wood chippers and to clear that.
And how is it going to access?
Basically, they will go through the parking lot, and then we would provide some protection to the lawn area. It should be shown on the plan. The equipment more than likely will be dropped off somewhere here. Then they will access the site through this area. We would provide some sort of protection to the existing lawn area, and then we would provide a site entrance over there
All right.
in accordance with Massachusetts stormwater policy.
Okay, and no heavy equipment will be going over Ingrid Lane?
No.
Okay.
Did you say you were clearing 1.6 acres of land?
1.6.
Why for such a,
Why?
yeah, why?
Just converting it into
1,600
lawn
square
area.
feet of playground.
Why are we wiping out all these trees?
Well, most of the area has been cleared in the past. If you look closely on the plan, you would see that the tree line goes around, and then it comes down, and then it goes down right like that. Some of the area is being cleared to construct two shallow grassed swales to mitigate for the stormwater runoff that is generated from the site.
For 1,600 square feet?
No, wait a minute. They're also creating a grass area for kids to play next to the playground.
Oh, they didn't
You
say
didn't
that.
say that.
I didn't.
No, but it's,
not.
yeah.
All right.
Well, you
I
said,
was
but he
trying to
didn't say,
figure out why
he
you're
didn't
doing
say what
so
it
much.
was for, he just
Right.
said
So
it's
is
grass.
this like a playing field, like soccer field?
It's not a soccer field, it's basically something for the church to use on occasional basis for their recreational activities, such as the playground area,
A
any...
picnic, whatever.
Any festivals,
Right,
something
okay.
like that.
All right, we got it.
Last year,
Yeah,
We got it.
we know that, yeah.
All right, the only thing you have to make sure is that it is handicapped
Accessible
accessible.
the
playground.
playground,
Yes,
we can provide that.
you have to provide
Yeah.
that. Those are the rules.
Okay.
Am I correct, Karen?
Well, it would be in their best interest to provide the handicap access, otherwise they could be challenged in court.
Right, and you don't want that.
No.
We can do that.
Okay.
And how does this new lawn get watered?
Right. This,
Huh?
Rain.
There's a guy that's got
You
control.
don't have sprinkler systems, you're
no
gonna use
sprinkler
town water
system,
for it?
but in the initial stages, the contractor will have to maintain the lawn until it's established at 75% of cover or so, and then
So
after
he'll truck
that,
water in?
they will have to truck water, yes.
Okay.
And then after that, it will be on the church to maintain the lawn.
They
just
can
like any
pray
grass
for
area.
rain.
Pray for rain, yeah.
Pray for rain. Okay. All right. Is there anybody in the audience? This is a public. Yes, sir.
I just have one brief comment. My name is Tim Montgomery. I'm a butter. I'd like to compliment the church publicly again for having listened to the neighbors. They're going to be doing the scope of the clearing by over 50%, reduce the size of the playground, and increase the size of the vegetation buffers. I thought it's a great response by the church in terms of taking the
Thank you.
It's nice.
That's nice. All right. Karen, anything else?
I have two motions, one for approval, one for denial.
Well, I don't think we're going to deny it, so. we
And
can-
so I would also recommend that if you are favorable for the waiver, we probably add two conditions at the end, because we did get a comment today. And I would say Ingrid Lane shall not be used for access.
Yep.
And I might recommend another condition when we get down to the end, that no town water be used to water the lawn.
All right, do you want me to read it, please? Move that the planning board finds the proposed site work is relatively minor in nature, of effect as there is an order of conditions from the Scituate Conservation Commission, which also serves as a stormwater permit, and stormwater runoff is mitigated through a stone infiltration trench and two shallow grass-lined swales with appropriate erosion control. A natural vegetated buffer to abutting properties is maintained. There is no change in land use, site lighting, parking, or utility services, and to grant the site plan waiver for the St. Mary and St. George Coptic Orthodox Church to install a 1,700 150 square foot playground area, clearing 1.16 acres of land and converting it into a lawn area associated with the existing church and school building with the following conditions. 1, construction shall comply with the improvements shown on a plan entitled Proposed Site Improvements, Site Plan and Detail Sheet by CHA dated 5/30/2019 with revisions through 7/12/2019, submitted with the application. 2, approval is contingent upon all local approvals being obtained from the town of Scituate and any state or federal permits being obtained. 3, the long-term stormwater pollution prevention and operation and maintenance plan approved by the Conservation Commission shall be followed as written unless changes are approved through the Conservation Commission. 4, the applicant must submit an as-built plan after completion of the work. The as-built must bear a certification from the design engineer that all work has been completed in accordance with the approved plans. 5, any additional disturbance of land area is not covered under the site plan waiver. 6, Massachusetts Architectural Access Board, MAAB, and Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA requirements shall be followed for the playground if required. And what was yours?
No use of town water.
No use of...
7, Ingrid Lane shall not be used for access.
Right, Ingrid Lane shall not be used for access,
Construction access.
shall be used for construction access, and
no town water shall be used to
shall
water.
not, and no town water. Okay, is there a second?
Yep.
I have one other question.
Yes.
This says that there's no change in site lighting, so the playground's not lit.
No, the intent of the project is to be used during the daytime,
Okay.
and it's not being used during the nighttime.
That's that question
Yeah.
before, okay.
Thank you. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okey-doke.
Thanks for the rain.
Yeah, really.
Pray for rain.
We need rain.
Yeah, that hasn't worked too well so far.
The trees are
very
very
sad.
sad. Senior center for 15 minutes, nowhere else.
15 minutes. So very sad.
The trees are sad. Okay. All right, liaison reports. Are we done? No, wait a minute.
Did we do minutes in accounting?
Yep,
Oh, okay.
that's what you missed.
Oh,
She
right.
missed all the exciting stuff.
What is this?
It's just for the church to do this.
Okay. All right, liaison reports. Does anybody have any liaison reports?
I went to the housing
Yes?
yesterday, and Brad and Ted were both there, and they were explaining some of the new, maybe some zoning changes they were thinking of doing that would help get some smaller homes in Scituate. Maybe they wouldn't fall under like a 40B, but it would be more affordable housing.
Interesting.
And I have not been to the Water Resource Department meetings.
Yeah, I went to the public meeting on water, sparsely attended. I think we had maybe 8 or 10 people there. The consultants, Teagan Bond, sort of presented their game plan, which was relatively consistent with what was in the RFP. So there was a fair amount of conversation about how that would get done. The expectation is that as they go along, they're going to publish a schedule, that they will continue to sort of keep us updated every 2 weeks on progress, and that as they get to deliverables, they'll provide those sort of for review before they lock it down, so to speak. So
Any more meetings?
nobody mentioned any more meetings, right?
Okay.
So, but they did say that the project manager was going to email everybody. Have not seen that yet. I actually emailed them a question about the design criteria they're using for manganese. But a lot of the conversation was around the groundwater issue. But we did get to the point where we sort of reinforced that we need a methodology for capacity assessment that's, been sort of vetted, so we know as new people come in requesting water connections, that we have a way of assessing whether we have the capacity or not for water. It remains to be seen what that actually looks like, right, at this point. They did have some data about sort of, some of the different activities they've already been through, like the town flushing and the ice pigging and all of that. They had some data about the wells and the reduced level of manganese from the wells with the addition of the green sand filters to 7A and 8B, I think it was. But they sort of popped it up on the screen, so I don't have any of that data. But they suggested that it was relatively low, but that the measurements that they've taken within the distribution system are relatively high, as if it's all sitting in the distribution system, basically.
Somehow. You have to figure out how to get it out.
Well, part of what they proposed was a continuous plan of sort of ice pigging some of the bigger lines and sort of a sequential flushing of the smaller lines. So I think that's going to fall out of what they do here. So we'll see. The one thing I didn't hear was whether they were going to do any sort of, primary source data analysis of like meter usage, right, of all the residents, basically. And I don't know if anybody's approached, the town about getting that data.
I don't know.
But I've asked them that question as well. So, but I haven't heard anything else since then.
That was a while ago.
That was the same night as the master plan meeting.
Right.
We had the other 8 people.
Is that all you had there?
No, we did
Yeah.
35.
30.
No.
And they were all over 60.
Oh, the 80s.
Over, between 60 and 80, most of them. So, I went to EDC, and then I went to CPC. The granite markers are going to be on the special town meeting. If you go down Countryway, just as an example, in front of, I think it's 807 Countryway, there's a granite marker that has arrows, so many miles to Boston, so many miles to Plymouth, and there used to be a bronze or something medallion. And so they're going to replace those medallions here in Scituate. We're probably the only town where somebody scooped them. So,
For the value
Someone
of the
might
bronze.
scoop them
for the
again.
value of whatever they were. And then there come the people that want to finish the canopy up in North Scituate will be coming back. I think that's going to be on the special to finish that off and make it look. It's 80% done, so we're going to finish that.
What do you mean?
The canopy up in North Scituate next to the old train
It means the
station.
train station.
Yeah, that stucco
Canopy.
thing.
Yes, the
Yeah.
old train station canopy
Oh,
with picnic tables. And just make it look nice, finish it off. It looks like who did it in the left right now. EDC, I was only there for a few minutes. It's tough to go to 2 meetings at once.
it is.
It's really hard. But they do have the bags, See Scituate, which I got one in the mail. They are distributing for recycling, because you can't use plastic bags after, September 1st?
Oh, really?
I don't remember what the
mean?
day is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And do you want to talk about the selectmen's meeting?
In the grocery store.
the grocery stores, yeah. I think it's more than the grocery, is it more than the
I
grocery stores?
know what you're saying, but
I
It's
just
like
meant-
the
It's everyone.
CVS and all.
Yeah.
Everyone. Yep.
Except the dump bags still are plastic. The blue bags are still plastic.
Go figure. Okay.
A disappointing meeting at the Board of Selectmen. Really challenging for the whole town. I think a whole domino effect of I&I not being resolved on Cedar Point in a timely manner. It's going to be another year before they address that. They have requested that the sewer department design a gravity system, and the sewer department has openly stated that they do not support a gravity system.
I think you're going to find, from what I understand, it will come back. It will come back again at the next meeting.
If gravity system's gonna put all of that piping way underground.
I know,
right?
and it's-
It's gonna expose it to all that groundwater and overflow
It's gonna
water.
leak again.
Yeah.
Again,
So hopefully, light will dawn. We can only hope. Do you have anything?
conservation is just concerned about water. I mean, that's it.
Water. Water, water everywhere. Karen?
All right, so the warrant is open, and we put in a placeholder today for 3 zoning articles. We'll clarify it. So the Humrock Now, political sign bylaw, and some housekeeping changes to the Greenbush bylaw. There's a few typos, a few things that have to be changed, so that will be in the works. Based on what you guys said last time, we're going to have the public hearing September 26th and leave an option for a continuation in October 10th, too. That's the conservative approach. So we'll see how it goes, but we'll be dealing with zoning. Toll Brothers went into phase 2. I'm told that the trees were starting to clear today. I did not get down there, but I went down several other days this week because they said it was going to happen on Monday, and it's really happening now. I've notified the Wampatuck School, notified the school department. Once grubbing begins, that's when they do the air quality testing for dust and total VOCs by the monitoring by equipment. I think they were doing gas line connections in Hatherley Road yesterday and some of last week, and but that's
It looked
happening.
like they had the road, sort of, part of the sidewalk blocked off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't go down.
Across the way.
So it could still be working on the gas connections. I mean, supposedly everything's stabilized. They haven't been watering all the lawn area, the rough lawn area.
Looks like Mars out there.
Yeah, and so it does look like Mars. A lot of the trees are dead that they planted in the buffer. I don't know what, ultimately they owe us a nice, buffer. It's too bad because they were gorgeous trees. But it's progressing, and,
I saw they had forms up and looks like they were gonna pour the entrance curves to the main
that's today.
entranceway.
I didn't look at
No, I
that.
just saw it today.
Yeah, so I mean, they're keeping progress. They provided me weekly schedules of what the contractors are doing, and phase 2, the police department, they'll have to have details for hauling, so it's all been worked out.
Okay.
So we're going to hope that it continues to go smoothly. I think the board needs to decide, just looking ahead, we still remain very busy, getting a lot of special permits, et cetera, and you'll be getting your first Greenbush applications under the new zoning bylaw in the next 2 months.
Are those the same ones that filed the other thing?
No, some of them are
Different?
Because
Because those guys have to file by October?
Yeah, so I mean, we're also with the definitive plans being filed for some of them as well. But in November, with the Thanksgiving holiday, you're meeting, special town meetings, November 5th, you're meeting the 14th. The 2 options would be for a second meeting in November to meet either Thursday, the 21st, or Tuesday, the 26th.
So the special town meeting's the 5th.
Right,
Then we're meeting on the 14th?
yes,
And do the selectmen meet on that Tuesday?
probably. I mean, we'll have to find probably another meeting space, probably.
I never want to go back to,
Sorry, we have to go back for the September 12th. The library was booked.
okay.
We tried. We tried.
The special town meeting's the 5th, okay.
November, right?
So does anybody have a preference for that second November meeting? It's probably going to be needed.
Fine,
So
whatever.
what dates did you say, the 26th?
21st or 26th?
21st?
The 21st Thanksgiving?
No,
Oh, the 28th.
the 28th is Thanksgiving.
Don't do the Tuesday, do the one before. So we meet 2 weeks in a
Three,
row.
3 weeks in a row, right? Counting the special town meeting.
Yeah, well,
So you'd prefer to do the Thursday before, not meet the week of Thanksgiving?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd
Okay.
prefer not
You want to do the
Thanksgiving.
21st?
All right, so then we go into December too, and right now, we have a meeting December 12th. For a second meeting in December, if you choose to have one, would be December 19th or none, because the 25th is a Wednesday, so you're not meeting on the 24th, and you're not meeting on the 26th.
all right, why don't you just pencil it in for the 19th, and
Okay.
if push comes to shove,
So we'll find some meeting rooms. Okay,
So, but we're meeting on the 12th.
yeah.
yes. But usually you meet twice a month.
So the 12th, yeah, the 19th?
Well,
Okay.
not
So-
every-
It wouldn't
not-
break my heart not to do it.
Yeah,
No,
not
well, I
not
mean,
at
like
Christmas.
Ann just said, we'll pencil it in, and if we can,
Right.
if we find we can cancel something,
We will.
we will certainly cancel.
All right, well,
Because the Christmas party's at your house.
Oh,
okay, as long as you cancel the meeting.
So I think that's where we are right now.
that's
All
right.
right,
That's what the cocktail party's gonna be.
well, let's work hard not to fill that calendar up if we don't have to.
I will certainly do that. We will do that.
Are we all set?
I think we are all
Is there
set.
anything anybody else has to say?
No, thank you.
I second Bill's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.